coming back like Jordan. 2-3 to the 4-5. Got the flu, but I'm feeling fresh, so I'm busting back from the trade line. They ain't dealing with the range, though. Catch me in the range, cause I got dough. Shooting up the range, trying to catch a dough. Quick the dough, all in the range, though.
Welcome back to episode 22, Superhero Academy. It's James Taylor, and we're back. It's Thursday, so today the goal is to talk about, we're actually going to talk about a sensitive subject today, a vulnerable subject, especially one for me, and I'm sure for other people, but I know that us really being honest and authentic gives other people room to do the same for themselves. I saw a TEDx yesterday on YouTube with a guy, Ellie Nash. His name is Ellie Nash. TEDx. Because I was just doing some research on addiction and more specifically, porn addiction. Because the statistics that I heard from him were not just staggering, but there's something about that addiction and porn itself that it is shaping us as a society from youth. My first interaction with seeing the naked female body was definitely around 12 years old. I was at my house, and my dad was an art major at the time, who he had a few art books at the house, but in these art books, obviously, were naked women, you know. And as a 12-year-old kid, so what we're going to talk about today is shame. Shame usually is a response to not just action, but typically an addiction. So as a kid, seeing these images, for me, being homeschooled from 4th through 9th, I was in school year round with no break. We had to go to church on Sundays and Wednesdays, sometimes Fridays. Whether we were playing sports or not is completely irrelevant, because we literally had school year round in like a lot of different subjects. And a lot of it was self-taught with my stepmom. And so for me as a kid to see these images gave me, you know, and to kick back off what Ellie Nash was saying in his TEDx talk, it gave me a sense of peace. You know, I had my biological mom. She was very inconsistent in her visits and her scheduled pickup visits, where she would pick up myself and my sister. And I'm the oldest of 6. And so there was this responsibility that I had as the oldest, you know, cooking, chores, laundry, stuff around the house, you know, cleaning up after 8 people, you know, was a lot. There's a 16-year gap between me and the youngest. I never had an escape. And even talking about this now, it's so crazy to know that when you're holding all this stuff inside, it will stay the way it is. You know, if we don't let out this stuff. So I never had an escape, and that became my escape. So one of the things that we would do, one of my other escapes, was we would go to the library to study. Like that was fun for me, going to the library to read books and study. And the magazine rack was my second place of, like, this is me time. Whether it was the Sports Illustrated swimsuit, I know Ellie Nash mentioned that yesterday. Iron Man, Muscle and Fitness, like whatever the magazine. They became a place for me to go in my head, which is what this stuff is. Any addiction. It's a place for you to go and disappear in the head. A lot of people will use drugs or food, alcohol, whatever, but nobody wants to talk about the fact that 42 billion visits a year go to a single porn site. 42 billion visits. If there's 6.5, 7 billion people on this planet, that's 6 visits a year to a single site from each person on the planet, including children. So somebody out here is watching it. 5 billion hours are watched every year. And these are old statistics. If you took all the content, all the porn content in the world, and loaded the USBs, loaded a bunch of USBs and stacked them end over end, you would go around, it would form a circle around the moon. That's how much content's out there. These are, I have a 64 gig. I don't know how big this one is. This was like 4 gigs. You see what I'm saying? $3,000 spent every minute on these sites. And every second, 30,000 people are watching. It's been 6 minutes. So since the start of this video, let's see if I can get this math done. 360 seconds. So let's just say 300 seconds. What is that? 9 million? 900,000? Whatever. It's crazy numbers. So, shame and addiction. And I have a few notes. So shame is a painful feeling of humiliation or distress caused by the consciousness of wrong or foolish behavior. It is also a painful emotion caused by consciousness of guilt, shortcoming, or impropriety. A painful feeling of having lost the respect of others. And here's the deal. A lot of people, when they talk about porn, talk about, oh, porn's cool. Oh, yeah, I like this and this. Oh, yeah, I watch porn. No big deal. And it's almost, I would say, a defense mechanism, because I've been that way. I've been a huge advocate of like, it's not bothering me. But like, to take those images, like for a guy, it's the Coolidge effect. The Coolidge effect states that as long as there's a new female for the male, dopamine will continue to be released because our genes want to make it into the future. So a guy can continue going as long as a new female is presented. The time that it takes to ejaculate stayed basically the same as long as a new female was being introduced. Whereas when the same female was the same female, the time to ejaculation started to skyrocket because the dopamine was less and less. Shame is associated with mental undoing. They feel that their entire self is worthless, powerless, and small, and they feel exposed to an audience. So I'll say this. I'm a recovering porn addict. Absolutely. And I'm not ashamed to admit it. I used to be ashamed to say that had a hold on my life. Very strong. That dopamine that is released is one of the strongest powers on this planet. Sexual desire, Sigmund Freud talked about it. We have 2 things that we want in life, and that is we want to be appreciated, basically appreciated, and then the sexual desire. 2 strongest urges that we have, to be appreciated and the sexual desire. Understanding shame, one of the biggest precursors to shame is trauma, which is why as a child, 12, 13, 14, 15, I hid my mind in these images. It was a place for me to hide. The deed itself is something for us to, like, it's a personal private space thing. It gives us a place to hide. And so for me, never having a break from school, the mother issues, never really feeling like I had a place And these are things that everybody goes through. But for me, my escape became not food, but porn. And they're equal. All sins are equal because sin is sin. Sinning against oneself, you can have somebody who definitely dives into different forms of food. Or you could have somebody who spends copious hours. We talked about the hours that are spent, 5 billion hours watching these things, right? Apparently, there is enough content being uploaded that there's enough content that's uploaded daily that you would, like, if you went through all the content, you wouldn't watch the same video for 115 years. That's how much content is being uploaded daily. Shame can impact the trajectory of a person's life. We avoid relationships, vulnerability, and community, and we're prone to suppressing our emotions. Some of us feel worthless, depressed, and anxious, and become less likely to take healthy risks. Think about it. When you watch porn, when I watch porn, there is no risk. No woman is ever going to say no. They're not even going to speak back to you. It becomes this place where, there isn't any interaction, but you're still getting enjoyment out of it. I heard Terry Crews and Mike Tyson talking about this, and it's is it healthy? I don't think it's healthy in any way. And this is coming from somebody who's been in the game for, 20 years plus. And I never would say that it had like a detrimental impact on me, but I mean, it absolutely has. When you think about the shame in admitting something like porn being an addiction, because I honestly believe that all of us have our addictions. Like it's in this kind of society where things come at you so fast, it's very hard for a normal human to not be addicted to something, or to have something like, the Chinese proverb, everybody's got 3 faces. And there's one face that we never show the world. And a lot of our power, our hidden power comes from, and lives underneath the shame that covers it. Because that shame is a part of the vice, the addiction that saps at our power. For me to release my energy that way and make me a less energetic person. I know that I have a lot of energy, and a lot of people have told me, over time, just conversations with me. I actually got told the other day I had the gift of excitability. I can get people excited about things. And, I recognize that. Absolutely. I've been a motivator, personal trainer, coach. And I've used that as a way to zap my own energy so that I could not feel and thereby not do and become out of alignment with who I wanted to be. And the thing is now, it's not that I even want to beat the porn addiction. I don't want to even fight that. Like, it's not even something that I care about. What I care about is being a person who overcame all addiction, not just porn, but any addiction. I want to be a person who conquered and left all of that behind. At 80, I want to look back and be like, you gave up a lot of stuff. Like, you sacrificed and it paid off. People who live with shame are more likely to relapse back into bad behaviors. Shame keeps us from healing. When you're less likely to admit what it is that's holding you back, the things that you're ashamed of, you're less likely to heal from that trauma that caused you to engage in shameful behavior. Ways out. And this is one thing that Ellie Nash talked about. Seek out relationships and commit to vulnerability with people. You being open makes these things have less power over you, no matter what it is. And this isn't just porn now. This is just shame and addiction in itself. Move out of your head and into the open. Again, it goes back to the first one. Seek out community and vulnerability. To move out of your head, to make this safe space outside of your head. Develop self-compassion. To love yourself. To have compassion on yourself. To understand you went through things that are making you seek out the bottle or seek out the... I don't even want to go into the drugs. I don't want to start mentioning drugs here. But porn, for me, if we're being vulnerable, like just talking about myself, just, when you have a minute, like, did you know the amount of time? I think it's like $456 on average for every employee of a company. It's like $38 a month. These people are actually looking up porn on the job. I did that one time. I was in college and I didn't really know about the history on the computers. And I got a call from my boss and they said, hey, when you were on the clock, this site popped up during your shift. And I was like, damn. So yeah, I got let go. And shame, instant shame. That was probably one of the most shameful moments of my existence. I was horrified that I had been caught. That was kind of a release just now. I didn't even really think about, we don't even think about the times that we've been ashamed of what we've done. We just kind of just move past it. Like, as long as nobody finds out, we're good. Believe that healing is possible. Remember, as long as we have the shame, healing is not possible, right? Shame keeps us from healing. So, to conclude, shame and addiction. Shame keeps us from being close to people. It keeps us from being vulnerable. It keeps us from being open and honest. It keeps us from being compassionate about self. 1 in 5 youth pastors and 1 in 7 senior pastors use porn. 1 out of every 5 mobile searches are for it. To know how this thing has shaped me, I know how it's shaping society. We all look for an escape when things get tough in reality. And that's just how things go. To seek something that is so powerful with the dopamine receptors, especially for men, to be flooding your brain with it. Shame and addiction will keep you from living the most powerful form of your existence as possible. And you noticed everything that we've talked about on this podcast has been about releasing your power here at Superhero Academy. And I want you to know that you are not alone in your struggle for not just success, but for release of the trauma, of the pain, and of the addictions that are a subsequent result of your trauma and your pain. You're not alone in that. And I'm being open and honest here just so that you can also feel that you can be open and honest. Again, go to superheroacademyonline.com. If you have any retorts to this, I will be putting up the blog post tomorrow morning on this one. I got a new logo that I'll be releasing for all these. So if you see the new logo, it's still me, still Superhero Academy. Don't play the shame game. Episode 21, Superhero Academy. Don't play the shame game. Don't play the shame game. Don't let shame keep you from living the best form of your existence possible. I love you, and I will see you guys next week. Have a great weekend.
Tough, man. Yeah, coming back like Jordan, 2-3 to the 4-5. Got the flu, but I'm feeling fresh, so I'm busting back from the trade line. Dame dealing with the range, though. Catch me in the range, cause I got dough. Shooting up the range, trying to catch a dough. Quick the dough, all in the range, though.